he's not going to get much sympathy. I'm sorry, but he is the word pompous personified. What is the male version of a Karen? That's what he is. Married to Hillary, and he gets into another scuffle and another one. Then he's using homophobic slurs. He's got anger issues. So he's like, I'll show them. I'm coming out with a sheet. That's fine. You do you. Tragedy on the set of Rust House.
I cannot stand that man, and I really hope he's found guilty of the Rust shooting. Now, I'll make a whole nother video on his wife, Hilaria. By the way, go watch that video. It's excellent. But I've been wanting to talk about the Rust situation even more. I'm using this microphone because I don't normally sound like this. I do not sound like Marge Simpson, but I've been really sick for a while, and I'm feeling better, but I don't have my voice back yet. But as somebody who used to work in the props department on set, and I was a set dresser, a PA. I've done so many roles on set, but in props in particular, so I am qualified to speak on this. The whole thing with the Rust situation makes me so angry. And while I don't necessarily think that as an actor he should be held responsible for being given a pew-pew with a live round in it, as a producer for that film, he absolutely is responsible. And I hope this sets a precedence for all the producers out there who are trying to make low-budget films but wanting high quality, not wanting to pay their crew enough, and putting everyone's lives in danger. And as somebody who has been in very compromising situations on many sets because of really greedy producers and reckless men, it's almost always men, white men. Even though those crews have unions, not everyone on set. Crafty doesn't have a union, and the PAs don't have a union, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody else. But the crew work their butts off, and even though they have a union, they still get treated like crap. And most U.S. Americans do not have unions backing them. So what happens in the film industry is kind of like a canary in the coal mine. What's happening in the film industry happens in every industry in the U.S. And if things are happening with unions protecting most of those crew people, and someone still gets shot, then this is just a great example of how messed up capitalism is in general, but especially in the United States. Now, of course, capitalism is tied to white supremacy culture and patriarchy. So Alex Baldwin, being a rich white man who calls his daughter a pig, doesn't seem to respect women, and seems obsessed with having children, which to me is always a classic sign of a complete narcissist. He's got 7 with Hilaria. The dude has anger issues. He's entitled. He is just the worst. So I have no sympathy for this man. Now, if you look at the producers of Rust, it's almost all men. There's one woman there and one more, but it's almost all men. And one of the main culprits, other than the producer, is the fact that they hired this guy. This guy had already a terrible track record. This is the first AD. This is the person who is basically in charge of the safety on set. This is the person who is kind of like the nemesis to everybody, kind of like the daddy of the set on some level. And this dad, like most dads, sucks. Even though I don't live in LA or New York anymore, most of my friends still do. And one of my friends ended up replacing this guy as the first AD on one of the things that he got fired from, and was like, this man is so dangerous. What he left in his wake, I had to clean up. And so not only the one that my friend worked on, I'm not going to talk about that. He faced complaints for on 2 episodes of Into the Dark, which he disregarded safety protocols by blocking exits and fire lanes. He'd also, gotten in trouble for not caring about firearms. One discharged unexpectedly on set, wounding a camera member. Can you imagine already having already done this before, and then it happens again? Like, the producers hired this man. And actually, somebody had already complained before. A crew member said his total disregard for safety measures, and said, that man is a liability. He's going to get someone fucking killed someday, and you're going to be responsible. Well, guess what? Guess what, producers of Rust? Y'all decided to hire this man anyway, and he made a mess. And now you should be held accountable as well as him. So one of the things that, and someone who worked in props, I've only had to work with pew-pews a few times. And man, you treat that thing like it is like a baby with colic on set. I mean, it's just, like you have to announce when you're walking it. Like there's so many protocols around having a pew-pew on set, even a fake one. It is such a big deal. And this was a movie with like a ton of them. And it's all about, wow, cowboys, wow. But the crew members reported that the firearm safety protocols were not distributed with the call sheets. They claimed that the medic was absent during the construction of the film sets. They also claimed there's a lack of adequate hotel rooms. You can read all this if you want, but basically they were shooting this thing way outside of, between Santa Fe and Albuquerque. And I used to live in New Mexico. I've done that drive so many times. To expect crew members to work 12 to 16-hour days and then drive an hour home and then an hour on the way there for a 6 a.m. Call. Like, whatever gripes these crew members had about the hotel accommodations, I will absolutely side with them, because I promise you, producers will cut corners in the dumbest ways possible, being like, well, they can just drive. As somebody who was a PA for a long time, and I had to, the PAs work longer hours than anybody. They don't get any sleep, and they're driving while they're tired. So that's just the PAs. But all the crew members, they should not be driving while they're exhausted after a long day in the New Mexico sun, right? Like, Taos is where I lived, and that's at 7,000 feet. I don't know what Santa Fe is, 4,000 or 5,000 feet. You're in high elevation in the sun all day, getting dehydrated, the wind, I cannot imagine how exhausted that crew is just from the conditions alone, in addition to working long days, and especially for a producer like that. Can't imagine working with Alec Baldwin. God. They also had minimal COVID precautions, even though they're working in small enclosed spaces. So this whole set was a mess. One of the crew members said he never witnessed any form of orientation about weapons used on set, which normally would take place before filming begins. You have a safety meeting every day. Right? And apparently Dave Halls didn't really care about those. And apparently the 7 camera crew members walked off the job the Thursday before that Hutchins got unalived. There were also apparently at least 2 earlier accidental pew-pew discharges. Baldwin's stunt double accidentally fired a live round also, because he was given a pew-pew that he didn't think had ammunition. They hired a 24-year-old to be the armorer. And I cannot believe they had one person doing this for a Western. Apparently she wanted to, I don't know how much of this is true, but apparently she wanted to use the plastic pew-pew for rehearsals, and they're like, nah. And I can totally see Baldwin be like, no, I want a real one. Now he's getting in trouble. The reason why they're charging him again is because he claimed he never pulled that trigger. He don't know what happened. And they, did a bunch of tests on it, and they were like, that is impossible, you're lying. But here's the thing, this Western film was produced on a small budget, $6 to $7 million. For a film, that's not much. But this was his passion project. A film schedule of only 21 days on location in New Mexico. With all that the pew-pew factor alone, I hate to have to keep saying that word, means that you're going to spend so much more time shooting because of all the safety protocol that's supposed to be happening, which apparently was not happening. Like, this dude is cheap. He's cheap, and he tried to make a cheap movie with high quality and put all those people in danger, and literally got Helena Hutchins, this woman, unalived. And the fact that there was a woman cinematographer, do you know how few women make it to this position? And gone. Just like, I still owe y'all a video about the movie in Georgia where the camera assistant got run over by a train because of the recklessness of selfish men. Now, the script supervisor sued Baldwin for a lot of things. But she was sitting right next to them when Helena got shot. But she was pissed that they hired a 24-year-old to take care of all of these pew-pews, prioritizing economic profit over ensuring the safety and well-being of crew members. You've got an entire crew traumatized for life, because this man is cheap. A 24-year-old with relatively little experience in the role, and they decided to put her on a Western. The pew-pews are regularly left unattended, as was the cart, which is against industry standard. comment for a part 2. So the morning of the incident, which was only the 12th day of filming, 7 unionized members of the film's camera crew collected their belongings at 6:30 a.m. and walked out. They claimed they were told to leave the set, with the producer threatening to call the police, and they were replaced. Allegedly, there was all kinds of stuff happening with these pew-pews too. People were shooting beer cans. Like, I don't know. This set seemed like it was a mess. And I've been on a lot of sets. Some were so well run and some were so not. And you know the difference. And it's all in the leadership. It starts at the top. When they are underfunded, ego-driven, reckless people at the top making decisions, it trickles down and everyone suffered. So some crew members were allegedly mocked because they didn't want to drive an hour home after a 12 to 16 hour day. Like, if by the time you get home, take a shower and like calm down, you're going to get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And then they want you to get up. You can't do this for 21 days straight. So they were complaining about everything. Everything from the lack of payment for 3 weeks, taking our hotels away despite asking for them in our deals, lack of COVID safety, and on top of that, poor pew-pew safety and on-set protocol in general. Again, Dave Halls was not doing safety meetings like they're supposed to do. And then apparently the prop master shot herself in the foot with a blank round at one point. Like, what is going on? I'll tell you what, underfunded. When you're underfunded, you hire less experienced people. I cannot imagine what a nightmare this set was. And if this man had not been so greedy, he would have hired more than one armorer and not also made her like in the props department. Like, I'm sorry, but I know that her dad's a famous armorer. But the thing is that whatever she did, I guarantee you Alec Baldwin's going to blame it on her. This is what they do in the film industry. The people at the top who make these decisions about money and, how much time you get to prep that then impact your performance, they never get held accountable. So I'm not saying that she's not accountable. I don't know how accountable she is for this. But I will say, when you're not given enough time to prep, when you're if you're a 24-year-old on set, I promise you, the Dave Halls was probably not very kind. Probably talked down to her. Like, there's probably so much tension going on, right? Especially if the man in charge of safety doesn't take safety seriously. And so I agree with the script supervisor. She alleged that Alec Baldwin and the many others involved with producing the film failed in their duty to keep the set safe. And that is where we need to be moving more towards. Okay, I don't actually think it to be a good thing for Alec to be held accountable necessarily as the actor holding the thing, because there was people who did not that didn't do their job. But as the producer, dude, I hate you. You're absolutely responsible. And also, he was supposed to check the pew-pew. Like, you're supposed to check it. But still, I don't want actors going to jail for what really, like, all roads lead to Rome. Rome being the money. The producers are in charge of money-making decisions. So I'm sorry, but the producers should always be held accountable on some level for anything that happens on these sets. Because when you don't have the money to do your job well, things are not going to go well and someone's going to get hurt. Now, I don't know if the armorer had these problems or not, but I wouldn't be surprised. This could be true, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Alec Baldwin's behind these rumors, because Alec Baldwin will not take responsibility. He said so himself. I feel someone is responsible for what happened, but I know it isn't me. I might have unalived myself if I thought I was responsible, and I don't say that lightly. Remember what I told y'all? Key thing a narcissist always does is they threaten unaliving themselves to be dramatic, and they're full of crap. Like that, like this guy, I'm sure he'd unalive himself if he thought he was responsible. Sure, buddy. God. Oh my God, look at you. Look at you. And just so we're clear, it's not just him as the actor holding the weapon. The reason why the prosecution is going after him again is his role as a co-producer with legal responsibility for production safety. Now, just to update you on what happened to old Davey, who was really the person in charge of safety, but again, maybe he wasn't getting paid enough. But still, this guy has a history of not caring about safety. He got 6 months of suspended sentence with unsupervised probation. What even is that? What is that? A $500 fine and 24 hours of community service and a firearm safety class. Wow. Wow. You know what? If the armor Hannah gets way worse than this and Alex gets nothing, point proven, because she is facing involuntary manslaughter charges and her trial is this year. Now, Alec already settled with Hutchinson's family, and it looks like they're facing civil lawsuits for financial compensation from members of the crew. And I hope to God that crew wins, because if there's one thing I do not miss about the film industry, it is being forced to stand 16-hour a day, which is why you will never pay me. You can pay me enough money to be on a Christopher Nolan set. The fact that man does not have chairs. Like, fork off, dude. I still have more to say about that guy. But I have gotten, and I used to be a ski instructor in Wyoming. It was negative 40 degrees some days there. I have never been so cold in my life. But at least I had ways to protect myself. When I worked on the film set in New York City, that is where I almost got hypothermia multiple times, because they didn't give me, when I was working craft services, for instance, they didn't give me a tent. They didn't give me a heater. I was in the outside. They would never let me inside. It was literally the art department and the grips and the electrics. Basically, all the crew members who would come and be like, you know what? I'm gonna go get a heater for you. Hold on, I'm gonna go help, because they would see me just. Yeah, I'm touching deli meat, and like it's like that's not even a big safety thing, but like they just don't care. They don't care. The people who are supposed to care about the safety of those crew members who work their butts off and never have true financial security, because even though they're in the union, they can't talk. You can't talk crap about anybody, or you'll never work again. But at least the union people have some protection. I couldn't even get into the union. I tried to get into IATSE. They denied my application. I'm glad I didn't get in now, right? Because then I wouldn't be doing what I love. But this is how they treat union people. People without unions, which is like probably 98% of U.S. Americans, they have nobody protecting them. And it gets worse the more marginalized you are. Everything comes down to the money. Follow the money. That is where you will always find out who is guilty of pretty much everything. And let me know when you want this video on Hilaria. These two deserve each other.